for having me back. Thanks, Rob, for that implicating story. This one's called Payday. All right, ready? It was payday, so I went to the bar. I didn't worry about the rent or the bills on payday. I slapped my credit card on the bar and I sat down. There were 12 stools. Two were occupied. Me at one end and another man at the other end near the exit. He was a young man with unkempt hair and a ratty polo shirt. He stared down at an empty glass. "What are you drinking?" I called him. The man looked up at me but didn't respond. An odd fellow, quiet, bothered no one. I liked him. On the jukebox, John Bon Jovi sang about being a cowboy. "Give the man a Jameson," I told the bartender. "I'll take one too. It's been a fine day." The bartender sighed. He served the man, then came over and took my credit card. "Listen, I don't need you buying him drinks," the bartender said. "I'm trying to get rid of him." "What's it to you?" I said. "He gives you business." "Sure, but look at him," the bartender said. "He's the ugliest thing I've ever seen." "How can I run a decent place with something like that hanging around?" "Bah," I said, "he's all right." The bartender grumbled and began wiping off the counter. I sipped my drink. "You gotta read the Examiner tomorrow," I said. "It's crazy." I just wrote a story about a woman who stabbed her roommate with a 3-pronged fork. They were fighting over who could use the bathroom. The bartender said nothing. He served my drink. I sipped it. People say I'm sensational, heartless, and inappropriate. But I say a thug is a thug and a punk a punk. What do you call someone who throws an old lady onto the bar tracks? Who shoots into a crowd of innocent people? The bartender was putting away glasses, making a lot of noise. "Almost forgot," I said. I also wrote a story about a fashion school graduate who brought her 4-year-old son to shoplift at the Goodwill store. She taught her kid to steal from charity. I had a good laugh. The bartender did not. I've given her the name, Bad Mom Fashionista. I dug up a lot of good dirt on her. I shook my head, took another pull of the Jameson. "Some people," I said. Strong buzz swept over me. I liked it. I kept sipping the drink. "They say I'm the one who's sick and horrible," I went on. "Don't complain about anything. Some readers are offended when I write thug instead of suspect. They think it isn't proper journalism, but I call it bullshit. If cops don't have a suspect in mind, then why would I write that there's a suspect? A person who beats up an old lady and robs her purse is a thug. Plain and simple. Did anyone argue with me about that? That's my opinion anyway." The bartender went off to clean the other end of the bar. I finished off my drink and waited for him to order another. Then I heard a deep, gravelly voice. "Hack," he said. "You're a hack." I eyed the bartender. I was certain that he didn't say it. Then I looked over at the quiet, scraggly man at the other end of the bar. He hadn't touched the Jameson, a maggot. "Who does he think he is?" I hopped off the bar stool and walked over to him. He did not look up from his glass. On the jukebox, Tom Petty sang about standing his ground. "Drink up," I told the man. "You gotta go home." "I can't understand you." "Oh, excuse me." The man mumbled something I could not comprehend. "I can't understand you," I said. "What in God's name are you saying?" He mumbled some more, so I cracked him once in the jaw. I hit him real good, you could hear the bones. 2 teeth scattered across the bar top like dice. His mouth gushed with blood. The bartender was stunned. He stepped back towards the register, grabbing for the phone. I downed the man's drink. It was strong. My body kicked back. I cracked the man once more behind the jaw. His face bounced off the bar top. He was out. Then I left the bar, stumbled home, showered, and went to bed. The next day, it wasn't payday, so I went to the bar. Different bar. I sat down and looked around, then I saw him. Christ, the same young, mumbling man from the day before was sitting right there near the exit. His face was a mess, his jaw huge. A bandage covered the knuckles on his right hand. The hand clutched to an empty glass. He stared down at the glass. I sat at the other end of the bar. "Jameson on the rocks, please," I said to the bartender. I stared down the man across the bar, but he didn't look up. The bartender fetched me the drink. I paid him. "Awful day," I told the bartender. The crimes weren't any good. I stewed. What I didn't tell the bartender was that after lunch, I received a desperate voicemail. It was from the bad mom fashionista. She was sobbing. She admitted she shoplifted. She said the DA dropped the charges and gave her a chance to turn her life around. With that article on the internet, how will I ever get a job? She cried. How can I start over? I mean, you called me a bad mom. One colleague scolded me at the article. You could have left out her name. He had a point. But another colleague told me not to beat myself up about it. She's been busted for this before, he said. If anything, this article will finally convince her to get her life together. He also had a point, and I liked his point better. I thought about the phone call as I sipped on my drink. They hate me, but they read me. The bartender left to help a new customer. I returned staring down at the beaten man. Eventually, he lifted his head and looked right at me. Then, slowly, his eyes returned to his empty glass. Had he not recognized me? What a fool. What a mental case. I laughed. I was beginning to find this man amusing. Give the man a Jameson on the rocks. The bartender served him the drink. I was impressed with the bartender's service. He fetched the drink without judgment. I paid him and added a $2 tip. The drink sat in front of the man for an outrageous amount of time. He stared down at the full glass just as he did his empty glass, doing nothing. I became frustrated. If you didn't like my drink, why didn't you say anything? I shouted. The maggot of a man finally looked up at me. He was ugly as hell, face beaten, teeth missing. He looked 15 years older than yesterday. He sat idly, waiting for death. Eventually, he said it. He looked up, and I saw the mouth move. Hack! He shouted at me. You hack! I seethed. The bartender came over to me. Are you ready for another drink? Forget it, I said. I got off the stool, I stomped over the man, and I cracked him, this time on the other side of the jaw. I got him real good. His face smashed against the bar top. The sound of it was awful, like a sledgehammer on a watermelon. Then I swallowed down his drink, wincing harshly to get it down. The bartender went to the phone. On the jukebox, R.E.M. was telling us that everybody hurts. But only sometimes. I went home, took a piss, washed up at the bathroom sink. I stared into the mirror. My nose was bleeding, and my jaw began to swell. Hack. The word stared me down. Am I a hack? Does the world care about any of it? I splashed my face with cold water and went to bed. The next morning, I was hungover. Everything was sore. I downed 2 cups of coffee and busted my ass on petty crime stories, waiting for the 4 p.m. deadline. Thanks again for everybody for coming today. I really, really appreciate it. We all really appreciate it. And to close us out, the real talent. Lisa, please.